anyone who's selling you gold and silver to become wealthy or to get rich is missing the point. To me, buying gold and silver is money, is wealth, and it is the foundation of everything else that I do in terms of investments or wherever else I see fit to put my money, my gold and silver, or my wealth that I hope I never need to touch. If I do, I'm damn glad I have it for an opportunity as well as an emergency. If not, I give them to my kids someday. And I know that in the year 3000, when my great great grandchildren are using the coins and bars that I passed down through the ages to my family, that it will still have value long after the dollar bills in our wallets are hanging from a frame in the Smithsonian as an example of what was. Well, I think first we have to go back. We have to make a statement that very often the information is there. If we look, the elite will lay down crumbs to say, hey, we told you it was there, you just didn't notice it. Let me explain what I mean. In 2017, we were in the midst of a 6-year downdraft bear market in precious metals. And strangely enough, central banks, who you would think would want to have gold as a foundation of their wealth, had been selling gold for the previous 5 or 6 years from its peak in 2011 to 2017. That 6-year pattern, or that gap rather, of 6 years was a bear market where, in my mind, not only were we in the midst of capitulation by the public, we were seeing selling by the central banks, which never made sense to me. And then out of nowhere, the German Bundesbank led an exodus, if you will, out of the New York Federal Reserve. They publicly said, look, for the last few years, we've been requesting our gold back. We demand you send us our gold back in 2017. We want possession of it. It really caught my attention. People just wanted assets that would return a yield, pay a yield, and gold and silver were being forgotten. So Germany asking for their gold back got my attention. Well, it really started to get my attention moving forward. Within a month or two of that, the Dutch National Bank, the Bank of Austria, the Czech National Bank, the Bank of Poland, the Bank of Hungary, the Bank of Turkey, all of these banks said the same thing to the New York Fed and the Bank of England. Hey, you've all been holding our gold, ship it back. Not only that, that year, those same central banks that following year, 2018, those same central banks bought more gold as a group together than they did in the 60 years previously combined. So they go from net sellers and no one buying to repatriating everything and massively accumulating it. The following year, in 2019, those numbers were up 100%, nearly. So you see huge purchasing of gold. And then the first major piece of this puzzle came together. And this is kind of what you're talking about, perhaps, or at least the seeds of it. And that is the Bank of International Settlements called gold the world's only other tier 1 reserve asset, a high liquid asset that is valued the same as cash. So it became obvious to me that the central banks who repatriated their metal and who massively accumulated it had been clued into the fact that gold was going to be revalued as a riskless tier 1 asset. With that being said, we fast forward, and there are things we can talk about once we get into this, what happened throughout the subsequent years. But if we fast forward to where we are right now, we can talk about an article that was written by Reuters and by Bloomberg last week, which said the central banks of the world bought 399 tons of gold this last month, this last quarter, third quarter, which is about $20 billion worth of gold. And it's 340% higher in terms of accumulation than it was Q3 2021, almost double the previous record of 241 tons in Q3 2018. It marks the 8th consecutive quarter of net purchases by central banks, and year-to-date total of about 675 tons. Now, the year's not over yet. There's 4, 5, 6 weeks left. That amount is higher than any other year on record since 1967. And if you realize that price is an ultimate tool of misdirection, There is no question in my mind that the big money is following exactly what you are saying. They are massively accumulating gold and silver. They're pulling it off of the exchanges, I'll get to in 1 second, because they are front running what is coming, some sort of a revaluation, I believe. Why I'm going into this big diatribe is that value and demand is disconnected to price, or has been for quite some time, and the big money has been doing that purposely. Let me explain why. The LBMA, the London Bullion Metals Association, their vaults have been massively contracting. And when you take a look at the amount of silver inside the LBMA, there's roughly 300 million ounces total. And that's silver that is not pledged to various ETFs and whatnot. The withdrawals coming off of the LBMA are record breaking. Last month, over 45 million ounces were taken off of the exchange. And I mean, taken off like goodbye, one-way street. No liquidity, because you're pulling them off the exchange where they're validated and in the ecosystem. They're leaving. We don't know where they're going. Are they going eastward? I surmise they are. But the bottom line is, if we see these kinds of withdrawals, which to right now, you guys, marks the lowest level of silver inventory in the history of the London Bullion Metals Association since they started keeping records. So it's being bled down. Price is being used to misdirect the public so that they can siphon all the metal off. If it continues at this pace, by mid-2023, there will be nothing left. What I am getting at is that whether you're talking LBMA or COMEX, whether you realize that less than a month ago, in one day, 45% of all the kilo COMEX bars for the mini contracts, 26 million ounces nearly, gone one day. Who's got that kind of bread to pull off the exchange and take it out of the exchange, away from the COMEX ecosystem where it has no liquidity? Because if it comes back, it has to be reassayed. Once it COMEX, this is going bye-bye, one-way street. In one day, 26 million ounces are taken off COMEX. 10 days ago, in one day, 4% of all the 100-ounce gold bars were taken off of COMEX. The deliveries that we are seeing in COMEX, in London Metals Exchange, the bleeding down of the ETFs by the authorized participants who can quietly siphon metal out when the rest of us can't, tells me exactly the question that you asked me in a very roundabout way, and I apologize for that. It is simply this, that price is being used to and rhetoric to misdirect the public, while the smartest, biggest money in the world is no look passing or misdirecting the public into believing that gold and silver are relics of a day gone by, and they are massively accumulating it.